I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, July the 29th, brought to you in part by Alliance Ag Risk Management. They have several options there for you, including federally subsidized downside price protection with flexibility as to weights and head counts and even sex there if you want to head some heifers there. But they've got a lot of different options for you, and check them out at their website. Showdown in Denver, and I tell you what, it's all about getting some policy change here with NCBA. And you guys think, well, NCBA is not really supporting us. NCBA is still the voice, especially as far as the government is concerned, despite pretty significant membership in some of your other trade associations, but still it's NCBA that pulls the weight. If they would get behind some things, they just go right through and you don't have to go through all the hoops. But you've got your Midwest affiliates through NCBA, your Nebraskas, your Iowas, your Missouris, a lot of your big ones that have a lot of membership there, have a lot of producers, a lot of farmer feeders, a lot of small feedlot operations there, and they are trying to get some type of minimum cash requirement put on policy. This is not the same thing as the 5014 bill. They're just trying to get NCBA to accept this at some level as policy so that it's easier to get some of these things pushed through. Well, they've got to the Denver business meeting here of NCBA, which is going on right now. They saw that they didn't have the votes to get this pushed through as policy, so they decided that they would compromise. Wow, you ever hear of compromise? Yeah, that's usually what it takes to get things done. And so they decided to not really put a specific number on there. You know, you guys know that I was pushing for 3014. I think that's the best case, but your Midwest affiliates, they already had policy for 5014, and now we've got a Senate bill, and we've also got another legislation in the House for 5014, which would make your larger packing facilities purchase at least 50% of their supplies there as negotiated cash, which would cause your packers to have to bid against one another to fill that requirement. And heaven forbid they have to bid on cattle to get them, like your feeder cattle guys do, and at every other level. But what they decided to do on the compromise was back off any specific number and just have regional minimum requirements. So even in the Great Northwest, and it would be different depending on which packing plant you were at. If you had one that hadn't bought any cash cattle, which there's a bunch of them for a long time, it would be a fairly small percentage. But some of your places that were participating quite a bit, it would be a lot more, and likely would average out to around 30. Which you guys know I was behind anyway, and I think the regional minimum requirements would be good. And so they changed in part of their directive there. They put in here, and this is what your Southern Plains mostly affiliates are fighting against. Your Texas Cattle Feeders Association. We all love the little burnt orange stickers you put in the back window of the pickups, but they're not for your individual producers, guys, or your smaller cattle feeders. They're all for your corporates and for your packers. Texas Cattle Feeders Association. KLA, Kansas Livestock Association, is probably worse, because they've got more smaller feedlots up there, and they've got more producers up there, and they're absolutely just ignoring them. Colorado's joining right in there with them. Oklahoma, I don't have a clue why Oklahoma is fighting minimum cash requirement. Oklahoma has very few feedlots. This minimum cash requirement, trying to promote competition, trying to promote price discovery, transparency in the market. It's for your producers, guys. It's to keep your cow-calf producers and your backgrounders in business. It's not necessarily for your feedlots. It's sure not for your big formula corporate feedlots, because they would rather not see it, and they're the ones that are fighting it. But Oklahoma got a handful of feedlots out there in the Oklahoma Panhandle. The rest of the state is full of cow-calf producers and backgrounders that need this type of legislation, and here Oklahoma is fighting it like they're a TCFA or a KLA. Unbelievable. California, we kind of see why they would be fighting it, because they don't have much trade out there at all, any cash trade, and they just think it would be too much to get. But those are the big ones that are fighting it. TCFA, KLA, Colorado, Oklahoma, and California affiliates right there. What they are fighting is what they've put in here, your Midwestern affiliates have put in here to change the policy, is for NCBA to support a legislative or regulatory solution that increases frequent and transparent negotiated trade to a regionally sufficient level. Now, them's fighting words, aren't they? Unbelievable. It's all about getting a robust trade, competition, like I said, price discovery, transparency. If you don't want that, then you don't want to change that policy. But you've got, like I said, a lot of your Midwestern affiliates there. A lot of your Southeastern affiliates have joined in with this. They see it. They realize that if they don't have backgrounders in the central part of the United States to send their calves west, they're sunk. And so they know that we need as many players as we want. And this is what it's all about, is trying to preserve as many players in the industry. And I don't care whether it's a cow-calf guy, the order buyer, the sale barn, the feed salesman, your backgrounder, whatever, order buyers, every player in the business. It's trying to maintain as many of them as we can, trying to keep these small communities alive, trying to let these individuals be able to pay the taxes and maybe keep a hold of their land investment. That's what this is all about. It's not for your feedlots. Your feedlots, they buy a cattle little hedge, they hedge the cattle, they hope for a basis, and they sell on the average or they sell on a formula type deal, whichever one they do. And this is for your producers and your backgrounders and your small people, to keep as many of them viable in the industry. And we've got a ton of state affiliates and big outfits that have gone on there. I'm going to give a huge shout out to the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. They have seen the light. They're on board with this deal. And you'd think because they were in Texas. No. TSCRA, they represent your North Texas, your Central Texas, your South Texas, your East Texas, your cow-calf guys. TSCRA's been around forever. They first started out to prevent cattle rustling, and they're still big on that. But they have gotten involved in a lot of policy, and they are on the right side of this deal now, guys. And they've got support and they've got votes. So we want to commend Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. They're kind of tired of being pushed around by the Texas cattle feeders up in the Panhandle and Amarillo, just basically bowing down and doing anything they can for your corporate feedlots and your packers. But we want to commend them. We've got a lot. There's too many of them to name. The hell of it is, it takes all of the other affiliates to fight off TCFA, KLA, because they've got so many votes, because there's so many cattle concentrated right there. So they pretty much run the whole damn show, and everybody else has to get together to try to fight them off. But from what I hear, the votes are going to be very, very tight. It could come within 1 or 2 votes. And some of these small states only have 1 or 2 votes. But I'm going to give you some of the state affiliates that are on the fence. And I'm going to try to get this report out here. This vote is going to happen at 11 o'clock or 10 or 11 o'clock Mountain Time on Wednesday here. So, if you guys know somebody, you can call and tell them, what in the hell are you thinking? In some of these states, they're not informed all that much, and they're afraid this is more regulation. This is not more regulation. It's something that we can do to try to preserve our industry. Try to preserve the cowboy, guys. Come on a little bit. We've got plenty of regulation in your cattle business, and on the fat cattle end too. We've got mandatory inspection. We've got mandatory price reporting. We've got grading. You can only haul so many pounds of cattle on a truck. There's plenty of all that. Don't say that this is it. This is something to help facilitate competitive trade, and we need it. So your affiliates that are on the fence, Florida, they don't even have a feedlot. You guys depend on sending cattle west. Why the hell you would be fighting this? No idea. Idaho, Louisiana, what are you guys going to do with fewer backgrounders to ship those crossbred calves to? What are you guys going to do? Montana stock growers. What are you guys thinking, huh? Are you all about corporate feedlots and corporate packers? Is that where your base is? Paying that money to you guys to represent them in the state of Montana, which is totally dominated by large cow-calf ranchers up there. New Mexico, they're so far out that they can't even pay attention. What about Ohio? Not sure what's going on there. South Dakota cattlemen, they signed on to the 3014 push. They signed on. I got it right here in my computer. And now they've climbed back on the fence. What's the deal with you guys? Virginia, you guys, you need to pay attention too. Listen to Butch Foster. He kind of knows what's going on there, and you guys know and respect him. And then Washington, of course. But those are the big ones. Florida, Idaho, Louisiana, Montana, New Mexico, Ohio, South Dakota, Virginia, and Washington. They've got votes enough to push this deal through, and they're not sure which side to get on. So they're just going to join up with the status quo. Status quo ain't working, guys. Okay, so what happens if this doesn't go through, which has a good chance not to go through, to get this policy changed? Chuck Grassley still thinks he's going to win the 50-14 deal, and I don't doubt it. USDA come out with the investigative report saying, hey, fools, look around. You guys have to do something to try to fix this yourself. You can't look for us. Talk about government intervention. You can't look to us to try to prosecute these packers on these antitrust deals that are hard to prove, and it's going to be hard to penalize them. But they gave us a blueprint and basically gave us instructions to say, if you guys want to fix this yourself. This is it. It's kind of embarrassing when somebody from USDA has to go step by step and show you how to do it. This is what we're trying to do. But this is totally separate from the 50-14 bill that we've got in Congress, and I think we're going to get that. Chuck Grassley thinks he has the votes. If he can just get Pat Roberts to put the damn thing up for a hearing so they could debate it and have a vote on it, I think we could get it pushed through. So let's say we don't get this policy changed with NCBA, and then Chuck Grassley gets it done, and it passes, and then we get it anyway. How insignificant does NCBA feel? It's going to push them out. If they're not even on board with something that we're getting legislation on, and they're supposed to be the voice for the cattle industry, they're really the voice for the beef industry. And I've told you guys time and time again, it's two different entities. Selling beef and selling cattle is two different deals. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have gouged our consumers, at the retail level and at the wholesale level, and then just completely manipulated the market on the cattle. Got to see none of that. It's not that your cattle people wanted to gouge that far. They just hated to see them gouge as much and not even share any of it with your cattle people. But I'm going to get off this right now. But this is a major deal, and listen up. Be sure to listen up here. I'm talking today, guys. Today, Wednesday. And listen in the afternoon. You'll hear what happened, and I won't be surprised if it doesn't go through. But if it doesn't go through, I tell you what, we're gonna shame them, and it's absolutely ridiculous here. And I don't blame all you people if you sign that referendum to get the beef checkoff deal done. How's NCBA and all these affiliates gonna live with all those checkoff dollars? I wouldn't blame you a bit. 90,000 votes or 90,000 signatures. Hell, we'll get 1 million of them. Let's talk about the board. On Tuesday, August live cattle futures up 47 cents at $100.90. October up 117 at 105. Going out from there up 22 to up 80 cents. August feeder cattle up 135. It's just a bounce back from what they had on Monday. 140.70 for August feeders. September up 167, 141.30. Going out from there up 15 cents to up $1.25. So pretty much gained back most all the losses from Monday. Your fat cattle trade, it started out here on Tuesday with just minimal trade. It's looking like it could be steady. The Southern Plains are trying to get more bought a tick lower or at the bottom of last week's price range, but Iowa, 1,100 head, dressed from 161 to 170. That 170 sounds high. That's just one deal there. Nebraska didn't have any confirmed trade. Kansas, 5,000 head from 95 to 97 and a half. Heard that 97 and a half was just to a regional there, and you could kind of see that with Texas selling a few head there, about 900, all at 95. I want to give you a story about a guy I know from Clayton, New Mexico, my former hometown. His name's Billy Crisp. His brother Clay Crisp actually grazes my grandmother's old bev ranch there in the Thomas community near Clayton, New Mexico. Billy called and told me a story, and it all ties in with this stuff that's going on in Denver and everything. But he's a small producer, younger guy there, and about 400 cows, he told me. He raised up his calves, got ready to sell them as yearlings, got hit by the COVID deal. He couldn't sell them, no market really. That was when he was normally going to sell those cattle. So he decided to keep them and feed them and see if he couldn't come out on the deal. So he fed them there locally at Clayton Cattle Feeders. That's the old feedlot where Charmaine James's dad first invented the right stuff horse feed, but that's another story. But anyways, he fed those cattle right there locally, and he decided to grid them whenever they were done. So he got on the grid, decided to grid them because he thought the cattle were really good, and he was proud of them. Sent them in on the grid. First time he'd ever done that. They get to Tyson, they look at him and they say, "Who's this guy? He's not sending us, 200 truckloads a week or anything." So anyway, gets his grid papers back. 8 head of his home-raised cattle there that were less than a year and a half old come back as hard bones. Marked them commercial. What recourse does he have? None. Why couldn't he have a competitive market that he could put those good cattle up on and let those guys bid on them and get a market that he was proud of and that would get him out and wouldn't have to put them on a grid deal? But I tell you what, he was biting nails mad, and I don't blame him. And what recourse he has, I don't know. But it's just one of those stories there, and it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's upsetting. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on DV auction laid on Tuesday there, sitting at 139.11. It was back up 17 cents, so it gained back everything that it lost on Monday's high volume sales. So our cash yearling feeder steers are selling right in there, guys. Look at some of your sale barns. Ozarks Regional Stockyards, West Plains, Missouri, 3,400 head there. Steady to $4 higher on all classes. Don't forget, West Plains has got a big replacement sale Saturday at noon. You can watch, view, and bid right there, dvauction.com. I want to give you several places with some impressive quotes. How about Beaver County Stockyards right there, No Man's Land, Oklahoma, proudly represented by Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association there. Yeah, right. But anyway, Beaver, look at these loads and bigger right here. And included in there, I'm talking in the Oklahoma Panhandle, 920 to 940 pound steers, loads of them, selling from 131 to 132.50. Wow. That's impressive right there. How about Unionville Livestock Market? The sport leaders up there, my friends, they had some really good strings up there. Look at these loads of steers here. Included in there are 5 loads of the Rockin' R steers right there that always top the market from Lucerne, Missouri right there. Look at these heavy 8-weight steers, all bringing from 137 to 140.75. Brad Harn, my buddy there at Fredonia, where I was at last week, I wished I'd have been there this week. He had a hell of a sale, kind of had a special on those weaned fall-born calves, but he also had yearlings in there, and I'm going to give you some yearling quotes here. How about the Pickett Ranch there that always sells their cattle at Fredonia? 138 spayed heifers, weighed 795 and 136.85. And then the Warren cattle, they had 4 loads in there, mostly black steers. Had 129 head of them, weighed 754 at 149.35, and 130 head weighed 786 at 144.75. But the best quotes that I saw anywhere on Tuesday come out of Denny Rezac Livestock Commission, St. Mary's, Kansas. Look at these strings of cattle they get in St. Mary's, Kansas. Wow. But look at this big long string. 230 head, 873-pound steers in St. Mary's, Kansas, bring $143. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.